Hello.
Okay. Are you here to kick people over to the Zoom?
Yes,
Okay.
I am.
Right. Are you all set? You want me to do that? I just saw Jim Purple pop up and he left, so.
Yeah, I jumped on and told him that. So I see most of them on the Zoom meeting right now.
Yeah. I'm gonna admit Chris Hamill and tell him to go to the Zoom.
In a meeting.
Hey everyone, just checking that my audio is working.
Read you loud and clear.
Yeah, were you really in a boiler room or is that fake?
Probably a fake background, John.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I don't think you heard me.
We have a ton of people, unfortunately, not the right people to start this.
Up there's Stacy. We have 7.
Diane, you home?
I am finally.
Was it a good week?
It was a great week, actually. Yeah, it was really cool.
How was Ibram?
He was great. I got to interview him, so it was a
Oh,
pretty unique experience.
yeah.
Yeah. And we had probably the better part of it was, so I interviewed him with Pat Tutwiler on stage for about an hour and a half. And then we had a panel of students who came up, and we asked them to kind of reflect on what they heard from him and what they thought were our next steps as superintendents. So it was a pretty cool experience.
Too bad you didn't wait till the MASC conference. That would have been good.
I know. Well, we're going to have the kids come back to MASC anyway.
Oh, good.
So
Good.
we'll do a piece of it there.
Okay, so it looks like we can get started, and I see Chris Bowen here. Is he there?
Hi, everyone. I am. Hi, everyone. How are you?
All right, maybe we should introduce him
Well-
too.
Welcome, Chris.
I know.
Hi,
Since
everyone. I'm just driving. I'm driving home. I'm in the car right now. I'm driving home from school, so I should be able to show my face in probably 10, 15 minutes. Okay, but
Okay,
can everyone hear me? Okay.
yep,
Yes.
it'll be great
Okay,
to
great.
introduce you to the group that doesn't know you.
Great.
Mhm.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Okay, all right, so we can get started. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Revere High School Building Committee meeting number 36. Today is Thursday, July 14th, 2022, and the time is 5:34 p.m. Linda, if you could take the roll call, please.
I will certainly do that. I am going to go through the SBC committee first. We'll start with that, the roll call. Mike Bacardi,
Here.
Mayor Arrigo. Absent. Stacy Bronston Rizzo.
Here.
Excellent. Susan Gravellisi.
Here.
Dr. Kelly.
Here.
Excellent. Carl Svensson.
Here.
Mr. Christopher Bowen.
Here.
Excellent. Jennifer Hayes.
Here.
Rich Biscay.
Here.
Ah, you are here. Okay. Rich Biscay, RJV iPad. Noted. Thank you. Don Sermella.
Here.
Thank you. Nick Rystrom emailed that he was going to be absent today. And Patrick Keefe also noted that he was going to be absent today. So that is attendance for our SBC members. I'm wondering if we should maybe go a little bit out of the ordinary here before we get to all the fun stuff. Maybe just go through some of the housekeeping items first, and then we can go through introductions of the rest of the teams following through with a presentation. So I'm going to go through the couple of housekeeping items we have for this meeting, which is number 1 on our agenda. Is to approve meeting minutes from our previous meeting, which was the June 23rd meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Stacy and Susan, thank you. And I will do a roll call for approval of meeting minutes. Mike Bacardi,
Yes.
Stacy Rizzo,
Yes.
Susan Gravellisi,
Yes.
Dr. Kelly,
Yes.
Carl Svensson,
Yes.
Chris Bowen.
Yes.
I'm actually going to note you to abstain from voting on these
Okay.
because you weren't at the last meeting, but I want to make sure that you get caught on the roll call.
That makes perfect sense.
Thank you. Jennifer Hayes.
Yes.
You, Rich Biscay,
Yes.
Don Ciaramella,
Yes.
Jerry Visconti.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, we have voting through June invoices for approval. And these were also sent out in the email earlier this week. So if we start with Leftfield's invoice, this will be invoice number 20 for feasibility management services for June in the amount of $15,000.
Motion to approve $15,000 to Leftfield.
Second,
Second.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And we will do a roll call for this. Mike Bacardi,
Yes.
Stacy Rizzo,
Yes.
Susan Gravellisi,
yes.
Dr. Kelly,
Yes.
Carl Svensson,
Yes.
Chris Bowen,
Should I abstain from this or should I say yes? I'm inclined to say yes.
perfect.
Learn
Jennifer
the train.
Hayes,
Yes.
Rich Viscay,
Yes.
Don Ciramella,
Yes.
Jerry Visconti.
Yes.
Excellent. Next up, we have Perkins Eastman's invoice, sorry, for June services, which is in the amount of $54,040.50.
Motion to approve the $54,040.50 to Perkins Eastman.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, thank you. And we will do yet another roll call for this approval of the invoice for Perkins Eastman. Mike Bacardi,
Yes.
Stacy Rizzo,
Yes.
Susan Gravellisi,
Yes.
Dr. Kelly,
Yes.
Carl Svensson,
Yes.
Chris Bowen.
Yes.
Excellent, thank you. Jennifer Hayes,
Yes.
Rich Biscay,
Yes.
Don Ciramella,
Yes.
and Jerry Visconti. Jerry Visconti?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. I see you were trying to talk, but I didn't hear anything. Thank you very much. Going back to our agenda, this completes the more boring portion of the housekeeping, and we move on to a little more interesting items. And we're going to move on to Perkins Eastman's presentation, which starts off with the introduction of Consigli Construction Company. So we have quite a few team members here, I see. Maybe we could just go through and have everybody just quickly introduce themselves and a role. It might be helpful for the rest of the SBC members.
Linda, I'm sorry to interrupt. Who's sharing the presentation? Consigli had some slides. Are you doing that? I would typically do it if you want me to, because I'll speak to Perkins Eastman's. Just what's your preference?
You can go right ahead. You should be able to.
If you guys want to do it. I was going to say, if you want to do,
so I can transition if you'd rather.
Sure, Christy. I mean,
Okay.
it's the flow of your presentation. Sometimes it's easier to do it yourself. So totally up to you.
Okay, I will grab the screen then if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, by all means. And hello.
Perfect. Christy, let me just make sure that you are the co-host so you are able to share. There we go.
Okay. Oops, sorry, hold on one second.
Technical difficulties.
Here we go. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
It's full
Probably
screen.
not. That's full screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jim Hervel. I'm the project executive for Consigli Construction. And first of all, I want to thank Revere and everyone on the school building committee for selecting Consigli as your construction manager for this very interesting and dynamic project that we're all about to embark on. It has a lot of challenges ahead of us, and we're prepared to jump in with all feet and become part of your team to have a successful project. So with that, why don't you I'll give you a little bit of history about Consigli. Next slide, Christy.
What is everyone seeing right now?
The cover page.
If you're having trouble, Christy, I'm happy to take over and do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's happening.
Yep, I can help. Give me 1 second. Oh, wrong one. Bear with me. I had my other.
Oh,
version open.
technology, right?
Oh, technology. I'm on it. Here we go.
You guys can relate to all of those poor teachers who had to teach remotely during the pandemic.
Right, for just a little bit of background for those of you that may not be familiar with Consigli. We've been in existence since 1905. We are fourth generation of a family-led company with Anthony and Matthew as the CEO and president of the company. But more importantly, we are a school builder. Over the years, we've done 60 plus K through 12 schools in the state of Mass, and 100 Chapter 149A projects in which we've never exceeded the GMP or missed a deadline that we've mutually agreed to with the communities. We've also got 25 geothermal projects under our belt, which we understand will be part of this project as well. Extensive 149A experience, with over $2 billion of work already in place under that contracting mechanism. And we're probably the largest self-performing contractor in New England with over 650 carpenters, laborers, and masons on our payrolls on a lot of our projects. So with that background, we feel we were the best choice for Revere in doing this challenging project. And if you flip to the next chart, I'll introduce the team members, or they can introduce themselves, that are on here tonight. This is the core leadership team that will be running the Revere project, especially through pre-construction and then early phases of construction. I know Dave was having some difficulties logging on, so he may not be with us, but Rachel, why don't you go ahead?
Good evening. My name is Rachel Whittemore. I'm Senior Project Manager. I have over 15 years experience in construction. I'll manage the day-to-day side of the project management team from pre-con all the way through construction. John?
Yep. My name is John LaPearl. I'm going to be the general superintendent of your project. I've been in the industry about 34 years. My passion is building, and it's building schools, actually. I've been with Consigli about 27 years, starting out as a carpenter and sort of worked my way up through the ranks up to general superintendent, running work and building schools for probably about the past 20 years. Like I said, all my experience is pretty much K through 12 schools. I'm involved in the process with Christy and Rachel and the team from pre-con all the way out to the ribbon cutting. And having worked with everybody on this team, I'm looking forward to really building Revere High School. I think Dave.
All right.
Hello, I'm sorry about this. I'm having technical difficulties today. I'm Dave Gorman. I'll be the senior superintendent on the project. I have 24 years of construction experience, extensive 149A experience, and especially schools. I'm finishing up Attleboro High School. I've done Winchester High School, Greater Lowell Technical High School, and I'm very excited for this project, seeing as it's 10 minutes from my house.
Hi, everyone. I'm Christy Lyons, pre-construction manager, and I will be the primary point of contact throughout pre-construction. And I bring a high level of planning and accountability to really help guide the design and the decision-making process. I've worked with the entire team here on several projects. I work almost extensively on K through 12, Chapter 149A, and I'm really excited to be here working with the City of Revere.
Hi, I'm Tim Erickson, and I'll be the chief estimator for the project, leading a team of 6 estimators, starting with the DD estimate through the GMP. I've been an estimator for over 23 years, and my primary focus is 149A K through 12 projects. In that time, I've estimated over 50 schools totaling more than $2 billion. And to date, I've worked on 15 149A projects, including Waltham High School with Left Field and many members of our own team. I look forward to guiding you through the estimating process.
My name's Chris Hamill. I'll be the senior MEP manager on the project, which stands for Mechanical, Electrical, and Plumbing. I've been with Consigli for 13 years, also worked almost exclusively on K through 12 school projects, about a dozen that I've worked on start to finish, and another dozen that I've had my hand in. I'll also be involved throughout the project from the pre-con phase all the way through post-occupancy. And with that, we can go to the next slide, please.
Thanks, Chris. As I said earlier, as the project exec for Consigli, it was John and my responsibility to assemble the team that would be doing the new Revere High School. And we looked at various things that are important to projects like this with the complexities. You know, we want bottom line, we came down to identifying the Waltham team, existing team, as well as supplementing it with members of the Attleboro High School team that's finishing up now. And if you look at this org chart, 23 of the team members are coming from Waltham and or Attleboro, with 20 of them alone coming from the Waltham project. So everyone has worked together in the past on complex K through 12 projects. We know what to expect. We know what kind of risk we're going to encounter in doing a project of this complexity. And there's no learning curve with the Consigli team that you've selected. We'll be able to pick up and just run with the project as soon as things come available to us. And we know there's a lot to learn just yet. And one of the key things that we do for our clients is identify your project risk. But just flipping to the next page real quick, I just want to highlight one or two things to point out. I mean, this is a list of just the last 14 high schools that we've done. You know, 3.7 million square feet of total schools built just in the last 5 years, totaling $1.8 billion. But if you look at the top 3 on this list, they're the 3 largest schools built in the state of Mass in the last 2 to 3 years. At 1.3 million square feet, totaling nearly $800 million in construction cost. So you won't find a better construction team than the team you've already selected to do this for you. Flipping to the next page in the presentation, you know, and if you listen to Tim and Christy and the rest of us throughout the presentation, the whole concept of pre-construction is to identify the ways to build your project, identify the risks, and put in mitigation plans to control those risks so that we have cost and schedule certainty at the end of the day. And I can tell you with the extensive experience and knowledge that our team has, understanding cost, schedule, inflation, lead time issues, supply chain issues, we understand all those. We're experiencing all those. We know how to manage those. Our biggest risk on this project are the challenges associated with the site. With that, Christy, or Rachel rather, sorry.
Yeah, so we touched on during the interview the 5 major areas where we think that the site might be a challenge. It's obviously the unforeseen conditions, the floodplain, the geothermal wells, the adjacent MBTA lines, and then the residential abutters to the north. The one that we see as the biggest risk, and we want to talk a little bit more, is the site unforeseens. So if you go to the next page. So the risks really are in that we don't know what's on the site right now. There could be buried tanks, there could be underground hazmat. We know that there's existing foundations and slab. So the level of hazmat is somewhat of an unknown right now. We know you guys are going through the eminent domain process, but we think it's critical that we are able to characterize that site as soon as possible. So that we can get better informed, and that's through test pit locations, coring those existing slabs. We need to collect the geotech and environmental data as soon as possible to inform the foundation and structural design. And then similarly, we need to get those geothermal test wells underway so we can complete that design. We would suggest the best approach to hitting some of our biggest milestones is to give priority to the building footprint first. And we'll go into schedule a little bit more, but we did want to touch specifically on the geothermal wells, which John's going to touch on.
Thanks, Rachel. So myself, Christy, Rachel, Chris Hamill, and also we have Ed Du Bois, who's going to be helping us along with the 280, 300 wells that we need to drill on the site. When reading through the documents, these are about 500 to 600 feet deep. We'll work with that team. We'll try and minimize all the risk in doing this. I know during the original interview, we passed out some papers. In-house, we have a geothermals lessons learned based on all the projects that we've done with geothermal wells. And in short, there's a lot of logistical planning for geothermal wells, which Dave and I have already started walking through the site. We started talking to drilling contractors already in regards to how many drills and how we're going to manage maintenance in these drill rigs. And then also dealing with the permitting, which permitting for geothermal wells gets quite intensive.
Next slide, please. Sorry, John, go ahead.
That's okay. So again, with our experience and with all our lessons learned with the wells that we've drilled, I think we can kick this off fairly good. And I'd like to really get this lessons learned out to the entire group here, because it's a really good read in regards to what to expect when we start working on this process.
So Don, if you wouldn't mind advancing us to the next slide, I want to jump in specifically to our pre-con timeline. And, we have a detailed timeline here, really almost looking at the next 2 years during pre-construction. There will be some overlap of construction, but ultimately looking at the final GMP approval sometime in the late spring of 2024. And what I really want to highlight here that Jim sort of touched upon is that our whole pre-construction approach is really based on risk management, not only identifying risks throughout the project or throughout the pre-con, but developing mitigation plans as how we're going to manage and mitigate risk. Specifically, I want to highlight, obviously, the site exploration and the site characterization is going to be a key element. But additionally, in terms of sort of starting the site prep and getting in the ground, we've identified 2 early release packages targeted at early 2023 in order to allow us to hit that mobilization date in April of 2023. There's inherent risk associated with buying out, the concrete and steel packages early when the design is not yet 100% complete. But based on our experience, our best practices, we feel confident that we have the right tools in place, ready to implement specifically to the Revere High School project. And that includes bidding tools like our supplemental instructions, a collaborative constructability review process with Perkins Eastman, detailed design charrette meetings with our entire team at the table looking at design details. within those early release packages, recommending responsible holds and allowances so that we can control costs throughout construction and not incur change orders. We can manage the costs through the GMP process. And really this is geared towards maintaining cost and schedule certainty in those early packages, again, before the design is 100% complete. And ultimately, the constructability review process and our ability to be engaged and collaborative during pre-construction is geared towards ensuring that we have well-defined bid documents and ultimately ensure strong competition at each of these major bidding milestones. There are 4 elements we want to touch briefly upon, the first being budget, and I'll turn it over to the next slide and Tim to dive in a little bit there.
So what you're looking at right now, it's a chart that represents the construction costs for the estimates by PM&C at $312.8 million, AM Fogarty at 318, as well as our estimate analysis at just under 332 million, followed by 6 other recent Consigli High School projects, which are meant to show how the costs for Revere High School stack up. This analysis shows that we're about $7.1 million higher than PM&C and 477,000 higher than AM Fogarty in the trade costs. The balance of the differences are primarily in the indirect costs, and the lion's share of that is made up by the escalation, which I'll talk a bit more shortly. And while a $332 million estimate isn't necessarily what you want to hear, we've gotten a real jump start on the value management process. I'll talk about that as well shortly. And I'm confident that we'll be able to deliver a GMP in 2024 at the construction budget. But some areas I wanted to focus attention on where our costs are coming in higher than the 2 third-party estimators are primarily driven by commodities pricing. And this is in trades such as structural steel, siding, and primarily phenolic panels, as well as geothermal wells, the various mechanical, electrical, plumbing trades. And then the escalation, which I alluded to, which we carried 11.7% out to 2024. That compares to PM&C's 8.2% and AM Fogarty's 9%. The other important thing to draw your attention to is that our analysis is in large part based on some very recent reconciliations that we've had on school projects with both AM Fogarty and PM&C. So we've been able to see the trends that they've had and look at the costs that they had included in the estimate for Revere and then translate to where we would envision their pricing to come in. The other thing that these 6 other projects on the list are meant to give you is a flavor for our extensive historical cost database, which we'll draw from throughout pre-construction to inform the estimates and the value management. Next, I'd like to talk to you about value management itself, Christy, or if you don't mind moving to the next slide. After the estimate's been complete and the reconciliation is behind us, the primary vehicle for cost management and pre-construction is value management. We'll be using a web-based application called Join for our value management process. And we've found that in this post-COVID world, if we can consider ourselves past it, in the world of remote meetings, this has been a great tool and transparency and give everybody real-time cost feedback to guide the estimate and construction budget. And we plan to invite members of Left Field and Perkins Eastman to actually log in and view our value management in real time, contribute items, so that it's a real collaborative process. But at the heart of the value management process, in our eyes, is the goal to find creative ways of saving cost without compromising program or the learning and teaching experience. This slide here does include a list of 21 items. I know it's probably hard to read, and we're happy to share these after the fact, but 21 items that are specific to the Revere High School project. They total approximately 20 million in savings. While we understand that some of the items on the list are non-starters, we want to make sure you understand that we're going to work with all of you to find the opportunities that work best for the design and overall program. Next slide, please. So the hot topic on seemingly everyone's mind these days is market conditions and escalation in general. And the charts on the screen right here, these are escalation trends using a number of industry benchmarks going back to the year 2000. And then the blow up on the right is a projection out to 2024, which lines up to when we have our GMP. Leading into 2022, right after we bid Waltham High School, we'd anticipated 2022 to have overall escalation of 5 to 6%, but continued material shortages, increased fuel prices, the war in Ukraine, et cetera, the list keeps going on, has resulted in a spike, and we're now expecting to see by the end of the year 7 to 10%. So what we're predicting moving forward beyond 2022 is 6% in 2023. This is shown on the chart, and 4% for 2024. With that in mind, as I mentioned, we'd included 11.7% escalation from today out to the 2024 GMP. Then on the lower left of this screen, these are excerpts from our April 2022 Market Outlook publication. We published this either biannually or quarterly, and these show current lead times as well as escalations for volatile materials. But the key in our eyes to overcoming or counteracting a volatile bid market is to make sure that we get subcontractor budget participation throughout pre-construction, as well as a broad outreach leading up to the GMP. These efforts will give us real-time cost feedback as well as increased competition and savings in the GMP.
If we could jump to the next slide, I want to switch gears a little bit and just talk about something that's very important to us, our team, but also Consigli, is looking at opportunities to maximize within the city and for Revere, whether that's residents or using local businesses for printing services, lunches, catering, takeout. We're really committed to making sure that we're maximizing our opportunities within the city. And a couple examples of that, there's an image here on the screen of an open house that we conducted with the city of Lawrence, and we invited local businesses and suppliers to just teach them more about that specific project. And we would recommend doing the same and looking for ways in which we can collaborate with some of these businesses or use their services on the project. Additionally, Consigli is, as Genuine Builders, we do have a self-perform division called Riggs, and we feel this is a great opportunity to offer offer jobs through our union affiliations and try to promote the workforce through Revere residents and surrounding communities. We do have 8 Consigli employees that live in the city, but a lot more that work or lived in the adjacent communities. So we're really excited again about that opportunity as well. And on the next slide, I'll let Chris jump into a little bit more detail about his role during pre-construction.
Thanks, Christy. Rachel told me I have 1 minute, so I'm just going to very quickly highlight a unique aspect of Consigli's pre-construction process, which is our 3D constructability review. It's a process that I developed and trained our in-house staff on to make a standard for all our projects, where essentially we take the design models at the 60% phase and run a clash detection on those in 3D to help inform us of areas of the building that need to be looked at for constructability concerns. So we're not trying to achieve a clash-free model during this process like we would with the subcontractors, but rather we want to identify issues that need updates to the drawings, either architectural or the MEPs, before they hit the streets, in order to provide cost certainty, minimize change orders, and guarantee the schedule. There's a very basic example on the screen of a duct that we ultimately split into 2 ducts so that it could fit through the joist webs. It's those kind of issues that just, we want to bake the changes into the documents when they hit the street rather than dealing with them as a change order later. This process also allows us to determine all of the sleeve load
I think we have another, I don't know, 5 to 10 minutes to finish up to talk about how we plan to actually build the project on this site. Any questions, or shall we just keep going? Okay. Rachel?
All right, thanks. So I want to touch on schedule. We obviously know that opening the school for the 2026 fall school year is important to this team. There's a few milestones that we think are critical to hit that date. So mobilization in April of 2023. That'll allow foundations to start in August of 2023. And then structural steel needs to start in December of 2023. That allows us 30 months of construction from steel erection through completion. The biggest risks that we see with this is the bid package progression. We need to make sure we have all the information in hand to get that buyout and award done early. Unforeseen conditions we've talked about, so getting that site characterized as soon as possible. Shortened MEP coordination. If you can already tell, I'm already on Chris to hurry up. And then lastly, it's a daily battle, but material procurement and lead times are something that we're fighting every day. And if we can get ahead of it, it can only help the project. So I'm going to let John and Dave kind of talk about logistics, and we can roll to the next slide, please.
All right, now here's the fun part, getting into building the building. So the one thing about the site that is great is actually having this rotary right outside the job site. This is going to allow us not to bottleneck your roads, hopefully get all our trucks in before your peak hours of traffic. We looked at the traffic down there, and it's really 7 to 9 is the peak hours. So we try to get all our trucking inside the site before 7, have them just shut off their engines and wait till the 7 o'clock start time. We'd also set up a wheel wash to make sure we keep the streets clean. We put our site gates back so that we have a better view of the pedestrian traffic and the vehicle traffic. And obviously, we also know that construction loud, noisy. So we have sound barriers that we put up around the neighborhood on our fence. So this is really how we're going to start early enabling. We'd be going after any abatement that we have to do, the removal of the old site. And then we would really try to get into our berming and getting all our early utilities in, just because we know we're in a floodplain and we want to mitigate any risk of our site flooding out. If we want to move to the next one. So again, utilizing that rotary for the vehicle traffic into the site, we'd start putting down the roads, and then we'd work our way out and try to pave as much of the roadways early. That keeps down the dust, and it keeps everything cleaner and neater, and it gives us stockpile areas. It creates a nice flow to the job. We'd be working north to south on the job, working in the high activity areas, which would be your auditorium, kitchen, museum. Those seem to be like the longest areas that we'd be working in. So this is how we plan to do it. We'd have our trailers up on the up in the northeast corner of the site, and then just work the site. Again, we probably have a bunch of crews there, 20 to 30 pieces of equipment, 40 to 50 workers at this point with the early site package. Next slide, please. And again, we've at Attleboro and Waltham, we've developed a strategy of using 2 crews, and this helps us work quicker, gets the job done on time, but we also find it's effective and really works well for the trades where they get in there, they have a lot of work available to them. And again, we're always working north to south, set a flow, and just work the plan. Next one, please. John, you are up. Did we lose Sean?
No, you didn't lose me. I just got to unmute. I forget to use the buttons.
We're a Teams company in our defense. We use Teams, not Zoom.
So as Dave wraps up all the foundations, at around that time, January 24 or so, May through 24, the Waltham team will start peeling away from Waltham and head over, and we'll start with structural steel. We're probably at about 90 workers on site at this time, and we're looking at this time to put up about 5,500 pieces of steel, which equates to about 75 pieces a day between 2 cranes. And the good thing about this, as Dave mentioned before, and we're going to compare both Attleboro and Waltham to this, is both Dave and I have built these same jobs already, which we have a very good system down. The trades know the system. They all know how we want to work around the building with 2 crews, 2 cranes, working from the back side of the site to the front. With this flow, it creates a safe job site, and with the safe job site, it creates momentum with a job site. So the trades like that when they work for both Dave and I. So we reviewed the logistics with the crane in regards to the tracks on the west part of the site. We've already started talking to our safety department in regards to the airport and the FAA permits that we have to pull. And those FAA permits, they can take upwards, between 45 and 60 days to get those permits. And I think Rachel's already been pushing us on that as well. So our team, we have the best plan here. And what that plan does is it maintains schedule and it maintains safety. So we can flip to this slide. So with steel complete around this time, the north buildings, we start working on the envelope, working both clockwise and counterclockwise again with the 2 crews going around the building. And again, you're gonna keep hearing the same term, like with flow around the job. At this point in time, we've also started to build a quality full size, well, it's not a full size, but a cube mock-up, which will have all the aspects of the building built into this mock-up. We're currently doing one in Waltham right now, and I highly recommend anybody from this team for Revere to come over to Waltham, and you can see this happening now. I think it's great. The mock-up does take about anywhere between 6 and 8 months to do this and do it right. And this establishes the quality of how we're going to put every element on this building before we even put it near the building. And what we do with that is we create basically a lessons learned off of that mock-up for each individual trade, and not only the trade, but even just the worker, because we're going to have, upwards 150 to 250 people on this job site at different times, putting up the same elements, and we want to make sure they're installing it the same way that we started in the beginning. So that's from there it goes into interior finishes for Dave.
Yeah, so if we go to the next slide, basically we're finishing up. We're trying to get your fields done early, so maybe you guys get an early use of the fields. Meanwhile, we're trying to close out, start our landscaping, doing the pretty stuff, and then, you know, obviously making sure everything is up to par and closing out interiors. And again, working those tough areas, which are the auditorium, cafeteria, gymnasium, and kitchens. Again, those always take the longest. At Attleboro, we're finishing up those now, but my classrooms have been done for at least 8 months. So learning what I learned at Attleboro, I would like to do it the other way, so that those auditorium areas are done earlier and the classrooms are, you know, pretty much cookie cutters, and you can really move quicker doing it this way. So that's us. That's how we plan on building the job, and I think it's a great plan. But always we want the design team and the owners to, you know, weigh in on what we think.
All right, if we go to the next and the last slide, we want to say just on a high note that we think differentiates some of the programs we offer. We place a high emphasis on student engagement because we know that the school is eventually for those students. So we offer hard hat tours. We do milestone celebrations. We offer on-site internships. We do have a curriculum that we can roll out if we want to offer more formal classes. But it's very important to us that those students who actually may not step foot in this school, if they're freshmen, sophomores already, is that they get to experience a piece of the school as we build it. So with that, I'll let Jim close it out. Jim, you're muted.
We have the same problem.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I know we covered a lot of material. Open it up if anyone has any questions, or if they think of things later, we'll be on for the rest of the meeting. But we can turn it over to others.
Jim, I'm Joe Lewin. I'm a advisor to the committee. Are you already seeing downturns in the escalation and speeding up of procurements that sort of show on your charts a little further out? But what are you seeing right now? Is there really evidence that this slowdown and recession is coming?
I think the only thing, and we've probably all seen it at the gas pump, is that fuel costs have come down slightly. We have not seen improvements in lead times or deliveries. The thing that I think concerns us at the moment, as we approach a recession and people or companies start thinking about layoffs, lead times may get longer because they're all waiting on critical components to make their equipment. And if companies slow down even further due to the recession and stuff, I'm not sure what's going to happen, to be honest with you. We all hope to see improvement in the escalation rates. But what was it? They published 9.1 for the month of June % compared to last year. So we're hoping what happens, we see improvement. It could work to Revere's benefit, but the sooner the project can get moving, I think the better off everyone would be. But we have not seen drastic improvements in estimating or lead times as of yet, other than a slight drop in fuel cost.
So other than fuel, lumber, nothing else is really showing it yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not that's been reflected in the bids. Yeah, I mean, the bubble's going to have to burst at some point. I mean, this rate of escalation just can't sustain itself. You know, the thing that I think we have to our advantage is that we have a longer pre-construction period, so we'll be able to see the progression and see that rate start to tick down. Some projects, some ours, some others have started to go on hold. And that may result in subcontractors getting hungrier. So we may start to see that benefit. We haven't seen it yet, but that's the typical trend when the market starts to turn down.
Thank you.
I just want to make one statement I heard about getting the fields on site and ready to be used early. I don't think we have that as a priority in our district. So I'd hate to see, so much work going to these fields and, somebody having good intentions thinking we need to be on them early and that there's a need. And I know the community would like that and all that, but it's really not our quick and steady need. We're not losing any fields during this project. We have fields we play on. Most of our fields at this site will probably be practice fields. I just don't want to see a priority put on these fields if it's going to hold up the opening day of the building being occupied.
One would not impact the other. Having the early fields is just a natural progression of the way the job would be run. It wouldn't be a priority to get them open just for the sake of opening them. It will just happen naturally. But if the town elects to use them or not, it's just work that we would have out of the way. But I guess the one message I would leave the town to think about is the importance of the eminent domain process, right? Until that's complete and you have control of the property, there's not much we can do with respect to determining the risk associated with the site. And the design for foundations and environmental issues cannot progress until data is collected. That is the critical path to this project. And if there's anything we could do to help, I know the few eminent domain issues that we've had in the past, they've all seemed to end up in court in one way or another. But the job continues to move. And then it's a matter of what's the final financial number that the entities agree with. But if the process could start early and eminent domain is exercised and you get control of the project, you will have a lot of information to take into a court battle in terms of what are the environmental issues on this property, what are the risks or costs that the town's going to incur to be able to build the school here, that would, help you in your situation or your argument as to, hey, we think we offered a fair value going in. But that's, but until we have all the technical data associated with the site, it will be hard to advance this project. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think if anything, we've been seeing a lack of the actual value of this property and the speed that's probably required that, in my opinion, we should be further along in this process. And hopefully during this meeting, we'll get another update on that situation.
Any other questions for Consigli? Thank you all for your time. We'll stay online till the meeting's over if any other questions come up for us.
I'll just say on behalf of the school department and I believe the school building committee, thank you. And we're really looking forward to the partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to the Consigli team. Nice to have you on board. Dawn, do you want to continue with your next step, which is our schematic design update?
Sure.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. For the Consigli folks in the room that may not know me, I'm Dawn Guariello, and I'm with Perkins Eastman. I'm one of the architects, designers on this project. So our schematic design update is mostly about, first of all, I want to back up and say that we had a educational leadership team meeting. It wasn't on here, but it's an SD update. We were able to meet with Diane and her new team, which she hasn't even had a chance to intro yet. So I can let you do that now, Diane, if you'd like. Or I can just mention that we had that meeting just to bring them up to speed on the overall project. Nothing was It was literally just an intro and here's where we are, but we did it in person. So it was really nice to see you. And then on the 7th, we had an exterior working group meeting. That was our 3rd meeting. And it went quite well. We took, I'm gonna go through these quickly because these are just reminder slides. Option 3, design palette based on waves and ocean. That was already decided. I gave you that update already. This was really just the materials palette and the actual materials, a photo with some options. And what we heard this was at the 2nd meeting. So we wanted a little less rigidity, a little more natural materials. So we took all those comments and compiled them and brought them back to the exterior working group. And in the form of, so the next handful of slides, precedent images on the left of the screen with material options on the right, just for reference. So going back to the palette design, and by the way, I hope none of these materials made it to your VE list yet, because we're just talking about them and getting excited about them. But in the event that, you know, this is the direction we're headed, we proposed, and this was based on Dawn's comment at the working group meeting, could there be a stone base? And we looked at options for this, looked back on our jetty photos and the natural stone in and around the edges of the beach and ocean, and looked at a couple different manufacturers for a natural stone. So you can see those options here. The star just is the one that I picked randomly because I liked it for the rendering. So as you see the renderings later in a moment, you'll know that that's the Silverado fresco was the one that I picked. Sand, the brick, the majority of the facade, just relating back to the natural sand of the beach and some of the textures, and looking at variations on bricks, textures, finishes, and also the scale of them. You can see that with the overall length of this building, I keep suggesting maybe it wants to be a longer brick than your traditional size brick. So we're looking into options on that as well. And then one of the comments about the wood, could there be more of a driftwood feel for what you might discover as you walk along the beach, the weathered wood. So we're looking at up top, there's phenolic options, as well as a material that was new to this particular meeting of the exterior working group that we're using on our Dennis Yarmouth project on the Cape, which when put together, it can start to look like a wood, even though it's actually a concrete facade rain screen material. So I showed a few precedents to give the group an overall feel, since we hadn't talked about this material being in the palette. You can see in all of these, I think this one in particular and this one, the two on the kind of middle of the screen, do a pretty good job of the look and feel of what a driftwood texture and material could look like. And then lastly, some of the sea glass, and hearkening back to the comment that was made at the exterior working group, that could the glass start to have a bluish look and feel similar to what you might find in sea glass in the ocean. And both of these images are actually, all three are a Solar Band product, which we will typically use. It's high performing, it's a very good insulated glass, but there are, as you can see here, some variations on the finish. So we are getting some of those samples in front of the exterior working group. So with that, there were some comments about the previous renderings looking a little institutional. So we took that to heart, looked at a different window patterning, something a little more varied. And this is a panelized system that, you know, sort of different size window openings, different size panels, different materials. So you can see that, you know, these yellow or gold colored panels are kind of in the foreground with window openings that are different sizes, and also an additional solid material behind. So these are just some examples, and you'll see in the renderings, this was the variation that we modeled and showed to the exterior working group. a different concept would be sort of a screening of the facade, and something that could be, you know, representative or sort of solid and void and peel back. And maybe it could be, I think Bob Bell had made this comment, maybe it could be something that relates to the daylighting studies that we would do on the south side in particular. So we're looking at some of that. What came out of the working group was maybe the solid box of the auditorium has something related to the ocean wave concept, because it really is a box of a blank palette. So we're studying that, just so you know, for the next exterior working group. And then some of the vertical fins, and they could translate to horizontal fins, and that will be based on our daylighting studies that are currently underway. So this was looking at kind of a random pattern versus a wave pattern, and just picking up on that wave concept. And it could be interpretive, and you'll see it in my rendering. It could be something very, very conceptual or something literal. So in this case, it's literal. And then on the left-hand side, it's random. So this was the old design. I want to be really clear. All these renderings, we show what was previously shown, and then where we currently are proposing the design go. So this was the old design. This is the new, and you can see how it picks up on that panelized and random window patterning. There is a method to the madness. There is an actual pattern that's hard to pick up, but it's basically a classroom bay. So give or take 30 feet wide. And within that, there's patterning. So those patterns they travel along the length of the building. In this particular case, I broke up the exterior with some of these more vertical breaks in this very long facade. So I think this really, and you can also see the stone base as well. So what is being proposed here, stone base, a couple different brick, a light and a medium, and then the driftwood material as a concept. So this is just a sort of pointing back to what I just showed you, the materials that were rendered specifically. This was the old front entry, and not a lot's changed here, but if you focus, I'll go back real quick. If you focus on this academic wing, it's changed quite a bit with the panel facade. And this one's broken up quite a bit more vertically because of the classroom, the science classrooms that are on this particular side of the building. We are looking at a few studies of some more random patterning at the front and the heart of the school, both this side and then the courtyard side as well. And you can see the auditorium behind in the far right. And that's where we're talking about the potential for that perforated screen, conceptually building on the wave or ocean concept. This is the other side of the heart of the school, just a reminder, and this is the old rendering, and then the new. And again, you can see, I'll go back real quick. If you focus on the academic wing in particular, you can see the stone base, you can see the panel, the random window patterning, and the different panels of brick here. And then lastly, we've got the southern elevation. So this faces the Rotary. And this is the bus drop, in particular, the 9th grade cafeteria and parts of the media center, as well as guidance above. So this is sort of a nice break in the facade of the south elevation, which gets quite long. There's 2 classroom bars, if you know the plan, that sort of curve and radiate out from it. That was the old, and then this is the proposed with the, again, you can see the academic wing was where we focused a lot of our attention in between meetings. And then also you can see that some of these fins on the curtain wall here start to suggest a wave, and, you know, may vary, they may go horizontal, but the implying that, you know, there's a wave concept there. So that's high level what we talked about at the exterior working group. I don't know if anyone on that group wants to report back any, you know, I think the feedback was that they were quite pleased with the changes and the material selection. And in the meantime, I'll just let everyone know that there was actually an in-person group that met today to actually touch, feel, look at a lot of the samples that were delivered to City Hall. So Don was gracious enough to accept all of those samples. There's quite a few, and some of them are quite heavy. but coming out of it, some great suggestions. And we've got another meeting and we're going to do it in person next Thursday at 1 o'clock. So that'll be our 4th formal exterior working group meeting where we've got the glass samples I mentioned, some additional phenolic in the driftwood look and feel, as well as some additional brick with the iron spot as a suggestion to replace some of the this and go to the driftwood here. So just high level, there's a few changes, nothing substantial, but I think all very much improvements, and I think the design will be much better for it. So I'm grateful to that group. So I don't know if anyone wants to say anything. I was trying to keep it fairly succinct. All the parts are moving still.
Dawn, this is Dawn. You did you did a great job recapping. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, all the materials are at City Hall. If anybody's interested in coming by and taking a look, we are. Dawn's going to be trying to get a panel of the block that represents. It's a better representation of the colors and the textures for the bottom, and phenolic panels and glass samples that will better represent the sea glass and probably be able to blend them better with the colors that we picked, at least that we're focusing on, not so much as picked. But everybody's welcome to come by anytime and take a look at it in the engineering office.
Thank you, Don. And I've already got all those other samples ordered. They should, with the exception of the stone, I will say I already spoke to the rep, to Mary, whom you met today, Don. She needs to, it's obviously a custom board, but she thinks she can get them cut in a way that she can actually make a board. She even offered to put the mortar in if we want it. So that's all very much in the works, and she's going to keep me updated on the timeline on that. But the other stuff we will have for next week, in addition to some iron spot from her product line. So lots to look at next week as well. Those gears are already started.
Great job, Dawn and the rest of the exterior committee. This is like so much better, I think.
I'm glad to hear it, Diane. I think I put you on the presentation when I shared it, just so that you could.
You did. I did see it.
Yeah. Oh, good. I thought I did. Excellent. Great. So if anyone has feedback, either now, later, if you want to, share the feedback with the working group so it can make its way to us, however you guys want to do it. Susan's in charge of that group, although she keeps threatening to give it to Dawn. But feel free to reach out if you, kind of digest this and have feedback. By all means, we're all ears. So that's all I have really for an SD update. That's been the excitement the last week or so, couple weeks, working on improvements here. So there have been, just FYI, I included, and you'll all have it in your packet, the latest and greatest floor plans. Nothing substantial, I don't think, has moved around. Lots of tightening, lots of pushing, pulling. We're trying to squeeze the gross square footage, because that's always the fun task of architectural design. But for the most part, the major pieces are still where we've previously shown them, and the plans will continue. So that's at the end of the presentation. There wasn't a whole lot for me to speak about there. I just want to make you aware it's there. And if anyone has any questions or comments, we're happy to entertain them. If not, I'll hand it back over to you, Linda. I think Brian said he had to step off. So I'm not sure if you're
we've already started to lose a couple of people, so maybe we should make it through the last couple of points here before we lose too many people.
You want me to go back to the agenda? Sorry, I think I've got it in here. Well, I'm making everyone dizzy. I apologize, but It's at the very start. Let's see where we're at.
I think we're at public comment.
Oh,
Yeah, I
perfect.
was just gonna say, yeah, next up
Yeah.
is public comment. I see a couple of names that I'm not familiar with. So if there is a public comment, please state your name and address first, please. Okay, last chance. I don't see any hands raised or any comments. So if that's the case, we will move on to other business, new business. Anybody have anything to add to this week?
Just wanted to introduce him to the team. As I mentioned at our last meeting, John Perella has moved on from his position as principal at the high school, and Chris Bowen is the new high school principal. And as Don Goriello mentioned, we were able to meet with Mr. Bowen and Deputy Principal Riley.
Caitlin Riley. Yep.
Yeah, last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't know. I have no sense of time anymore.
July weekend. I've switched from driving to dog walking. I am with Ruby here. We are out for a little walk right now because she's been home for the day. So I'm sorry to introduce both of us at the same time. I am so excited hearing all of this planning as I've been doing work with Caitlin the past few weeks, kind of thinking about, our instructional program at the high school and the work we're kind of trying to think through and do over the next coming years. The excitement of being able to think about doing that design work as like having the end goal of building the programming for this new school is just amazing. And so it's exciting to see all of this and hear all of this, kind of doing it in concert with the work we're doing this summer, which is awesome. So I'm super excited to join this team in this role. I've been at the high school for the past 4 years as an assistant principal, working with the Freshman Academy team of teachers and students that are joining us at the high school. And so it's a wonderful honor to transition into this role, but even more exciting to have this opportunity ahead. So I'm very excited to lead this work. And Ruby is excited about this as well.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Diane. Great timing. What a time to join to join the school.
Absolutely. Enjoying the school in this capacity. I've been at the school for about 4 years. So this is my first year in this new role. So I'm very excited.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Well, welcome. We look forward to your input and suggestions moving forward through this very exciting project.
Absolutely. Thank you for welcoming me.
And with that, if there is nothing else, I will look for a motion to adjourn.
Can I just ask, Carl, did you have I thought you put your hand up.
Yeah, I was just looking for an update on the eminent domain process and see if we're either stalled or we're moving forward, or if there's been any progress on that. I know that that's going to hinge the ultimate end date of this project and all the data we need to move forward and ultimately get the final cost of what the cost estimate anyway. I think that's the big elephant in the room, but we haven't heard anything about it.
And you're correct. We do have a meeting scheduled on Monday with Rich Fiskay and the mayor and Paul Capizzi to get a little bit of an update and figure out exactly what the next step is there. And I don't know if anybody from the left field team wants to speak to this, but they've had preliminary conversations with MSBA to talk about whether or not an extension is necessary. But we should know more after Monday. And I think our next school building committee meeting is in 2 weeks, Linda, is that right?
That is correct. It is the 18th of August. So actually that's.
Oh, yeah, that's like a month.
Yeah, it's a month. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So hopefully after.
Well, maybe what we can do is if we have better information before the August 18th meeting, maybe we can call a special meeting of the school building committee sooner than that to just update on that specific topic only.
Right, I agree with that. We still, this is why if some of you might have noticed that the numbers are slightly off on the numbering of the meetings, because we did cancel one in June, a meeting in earlier June, that we didn't have an update for that particular reason. So we'd like to have a better idea and a better update at this coming Monday's meeting. And then we will have to definitely, if the ultimate outcome is that the schedule has to be pushed out, we will need to notify the MSBA very, very quickly and very soon, because it ultimately affects a lot of different things. It's sort of a domino effect, much as Consigli also hinted at in their presentation, that this is a big important message that we need to get solidified from the city and from the eminent domain process. It really is guiding the schedule at this point.
And MSBA told us that we really needed to work with the city to develop a schedule that they can support. That's what MSBA is really interested in, as to whether or not the city is actually committed to the project, because they will not continue to indefinitely extend the feasibility study agreement. They made that very clear. So hence we're having the meeting on Monday, and we're hoping that we can come away from that with a hard schedule that we can in return go back to MSBA and get their input on.
Exactly. And just to highlight as well, the difficulty with the particular schedule at this point is it's not a matter of just extending it 1 week or 2 weeks. It affects, a lot of things get affected because there's board meetings, there's MSBA board meetings, dates that have been preset, and those are not monthly. They are in next up in October and December and March. So it kind of, it messes up the schedule quite a bit if there are delays, because we still have to match up to their schedules. And there's a lot of approvals that have to come through before we can actually get this project started and get on site. So definitely the eminent domain process is the key process right now. So we're hoping on Monday to get some more answers, some better timelines, and then we'll be able to notify MSBA about any potential schedule changes. And then we can also, as you had mentioned, Diane, potentially call a separate SBC meeting to just do a schedule update. So sorry, Carl, no immediate update for you today on this, but.
Well, I consider that an update. That's fine. I'm happy to hear there's a meeting on Monday. That's good to hear, because I just haven't heard anything about any progress or any discussion. And I think it's really important that sometimes we need to drive our process hard, because City Hall's got their hands full, including the legal department. So we really need to push ourselves into their schedule and not be sitting around waiting for them to pick up the phone to call us. So I just hope we're being aggressive and pushing the right buttons to get, what needs to be done moving. That's all.
I'd say we definitely are, and MSBA is also a big driving force on that. They will not let things just lag. So we will get more of an update on that and more details.
I didn't see anybody else's hand go up on new business, so I will make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I will second that motion.
All right. Thank you, Stacy. So we will do a roll call to adjourn the meeting at 6:51 starting with Mike Picardi
Yes.
and Stacy Bronston Rizzo.
Yes.
Susan Gravellisi has already left early at 6:30. Dr. Kelly,
Yes.
Carl Svensson,
Yes.
Chris Bowen, Chris, was that a yes?
Yes, that was a yes. Can you hear me?
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that was a yes.
Jennifer Hayes,
Yes.
Rich Viscay,
Yes.
Don Ciramella,
Yes.
And Jerry Visconti actually had to leave as well. He left at 6:41. And
boy.
Patrick Keith was absent today, so sounds like we have another vote from Stacy, though.
Someone wants a bop and go to bed.
Can't say I blame them.
We're watching that baby literally grow up in front of our screens.
I know.
We are. He was like a
Yeah.
baby
And
baby.
this is why lately I've had the screen off.
Everybody-
Wonderful. Go spend some time with them.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very
Okay,
much,
have a great
everyone.
day. Take care.
Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.